or her company's qualifications. For example, Mr. Collins says he knows he may need 10 armed guards at the headquarters.
Correct.
Does that bid paper then say that these 10 armed guards have X number of years of service with my company?
No.
Okay. All right. Secondly, when the bid process and they are unsealed, and then they go to supplier diversity and then to the division or the area of service, once that is open, are those persons reviewing that, then looking at the numbers, as you say, as it pertains to whether they're lowest, second lowest, or third lowest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in that process, is there any objectivity or subjectivity in the review?
Not at that point, no.
Not at that point. Okay, because for me, Councilman Conrad talked about the objectivity when it comes to securing our assets. And I would hope that in that process, when you review numbers, because you reviewed these hundreds of times, that you would tell, someone in that area would tell the difference between whether or not persons would be experienced in one area of armed versus experienced in another area of unarmed.
That is determined before the bid is submitted. We know that at that time.
Okay, great. That's good to know. And then second, the last part of my question goes along these lines. When you use the term best, as again, Councilman Conrad stated, sometimes best, or Ms. Halber stated, does not mean best. Sometimes best might be what's best for A, my company, what's best B, for MLGW and its ratepayers, and 3, what's best for Memphis. With all of the backdrop, and you heard the numbers, and we all know the numbers, and I think that because we all know the numbers, we ought to be, and I'm going to use this term, intentionally looking to address them at every area, intentionally looking to see how we can resolve these. And you all have been, in my opinion, the standard bearers. I think the city of Memphis ought to come up to your level of service when it comes to diversity. But in some cases, I think this particular process may have failed. And so I'm concerned that the best, lowest bid may not be what's in the best interest of Memphis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. All right, Mr. Berlin-Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, as you hear people talk and discussion points, it just raised a question for me with Mr. Date saying that he owns 75%. Why is he accounting for 1/3 of the MWBE in his bid?
Because the supplier diversity partner that was submitted with their bid was another firm. It was a firm of top-notch security that was there. They didn't, CDA is, and Mr. Dace can correct me if I'm wrong, there was no documentation in their bid where CDA submitted the documentation that they were a minority-owned firm. And so the supplier diversity participation for this bid was 30%, but it was not for CDA.
I'm on the time frame, so make it quick.
Incorrect. It's absolutely incorrect. Something is going on with this president and this staff. I don't know what it is. I wish you all would take time and look into this. Just to reiterate what I said before, the past 3 presidents had already
Mr. Dates.
sanctioned this.
Mr. Dates, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I'm just going to say this, and I said this in committee earlier. It absolutely frustrates me because we talk about growing Memphis's economy, taking individuals out of poverty, creating more jobs, trying to grow local and minority-owned businesses. But whenever it's an opportunity to start making a difference in the lives and the business owners in the city of Memphis, it seemed like we fail. However, it's great to see that MLGW, you guys, like my colleague, Mr. Collins said, that you guys have done a great job with your MWBAE participation. However, I just think that we keep failing and missing the bar. It reminds me when you get the controversial issue of ABC tree trimming contract, and we say we can't find local employees to work for ABC, but they can go to Ecuador or Salvador or Mexico and find employees and bring them to Memphis. And we have a situation where we have a security contract. And I know every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the city of Memphis owns a security company. Now, I'm not saying that they're the best or they have the qualifications, but in order for us to change the city of Memphis and change the economic plight in our city, we are going to have to do a better job of making sure that we pay, we retain, and we create opportunities for our local workforce. And I'm just urging my colleagues, and I typically don't do this, but I'm actually passionate about this because, you know, to hear these young ladies and young men that stayed here, that currently work for CDA, and talk about how this contract at their hometown energy changed their lives. And you could tell that they're passionate about it because they're still here. They came this morning and they're still sitting here right now. Why? Because it affects their lives. It's their livelihood. And I've learned in life the little things that I may take for granted, being able to afford to pay a utility bill. Some people can't or don't have that luxury. And so therefore, I'm urging my colleagues, please vote no on this item. As President Collins said, they'll figure out how to maintain security. I'm sure they will. But guys, we have to do things right. And I think that if we want to set a precedent or an example to say that we're going to grow our local economy, we're going to get people out of poverty, we're going to create jobs, we're going to provide local companies opportunities to bid, I think we have to start today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Let me make this announcement. Excuse me. Shelby County is under a tornado watch. It is scheduled to hit right where we are in about an hour. I'm going to request council members to keep their personal comments to a minimum, to ask relevant questions so that we can be out of here in about 30 minutes. That would be my request if we can. If we can't, then we can't. Right now, Mr. Strickland has the floor. Hold on.